WCBS-FM.
Ladies and gentlemen, joining us in the Big Show studios today is a guy who's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, not to mention the Songwriters Hall of Fame, and he's got 5 Grammys sitting somewhere at one of his homes. Yeah. He's sold over 100 million records.
Oh, 100
Please welcome
million.
Mr. James Taylor.
And at a penny a piece, you got a few bucks.
Yes, that's right, at a penny piece, exactly. They're out there somewhere.
I always like to ask people, where do you actually keep your Grammys?
I've sold more than 5 Grammys.
Forget the 100 million records, right?
That's right. The first 2, I think, just disappeared. And
Really?
Yeah, in the early 70s...
a lot of things disappeared.
Well, yeah, that's true, too. But it was really the Grammys were more like... We thought of them as belonging to like a different kind of showbiz,
right.
from a time that it was like it didn't really compute. So when I was nominated and got a couple of Grammys a couple of years in a row, I just didn't show up. I didn't think about it. Nobody in the constellation really. It was sort of a few years later that people sort of started paying attention to it, and that it started to pick up some momentum. But so those first couple of ones, I'm not sure where they fetched up, but I've got 3 of them back in my studio. I recorded in a barn that I built next to my house in Western Massachusetts. Yeah, it's nice. We call it aqueduct recording, but it's an aqueduct for our porpoises. Got a little logo with an aqueduct and a porpoise swim. Yeah,
like that.
Yeah.
It's got to be an amazing situation for you when you sit back and you just kind of like replay your career and all you've been through, because you've been through so many different phases and you've worked with so many wonderful artists over the years.
It has been an amazing ride to have been at it for such a long time, and as time goes by, I just I like it more and more. I realize more and more what a singular thing it is. How lucky I've been, and it is amazing. Some of the people I've worked with, from Stevie Wonder to Paul McCartney to. Boy, just
Carole King.
There's not many you actually have missed. There's not many people. Yeah. And you go back, and I remember when I was just a baby DJ starting out, and I heard about this new guy, and he was like a songwriter and a folk singer, and the Beatles loved him so much they signed him. He's the first artist on their new record label.
And Peter Asher, who we had up here, talked about, just being in the studio with you on the first album, how amazing that must have been.
I remember the album cover. They had, because of the fact you're so tall, they used you, and they had your whole body on the whole, they opened up. It was a fold open, wasn't it?
It was one of those fold open albums. I remember the photo session. We got in Peter's car and drove southwest out of London to a park down there called Virginia Waters, beautiful place, and I think it was Peter's wife who was taking the pictures. It was, it was just
simple and
let's
sweet.
Go out and
right.
But it actually came up with a really nice album cover.
And I remember the song on there, "I'm Going to Carolina," in my mind.
That's right. That was actually written. Towards the end of the recording sessions, I had taken a break. I went down to, with a friend of mine, I was recording in the same studio that the Beatles were making their White Album in. It was a place called Trident Studios in Soho. Now, usually they recorded in Abbey Road, but Abbey Road didn't have an 8-track machine. And this place, Trident Studios, was the first place that had an 8-track machine in London.
Right.
And so the Beatles blocked it. They booked the whole thing for a couple of months. And I would take the time in between their sessions. I just sort of run in when they were finishing up.
Sing. Sing,
sing. Ting-a-ting on the guitar. Folk. And then, I'd also, I was like a fly on the wall. I'd listen to their playbacks. I watched a number of their sessions. And it was an amazing time. And as I always say, I wish I could just remember it. But
you're doing okay.
But at any rate, they did take a sort of hiatus in the middle of their recording, and I took advantage of the time to take a little vacation in Spain. And while I was down there, I wrote that song.
That's where you wrote Carolina
in My Mind. So when I came back to London and started recording, I was really keen to record the thing. I played it for McCartney. He said, "That's great." He agreed to play bass on the tune. And he and I think he and George sang, helped me.
You think, but you're not sure.
Well, there was a lot of things mixed up in there. So I know that Paul played bass on it.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure that he sang on it too. But there was it was a long time ago, and there were powerful agents at work.
Yeah, by that time the agents were running pretty rampant in that band.
Speaking of the agents at work, how have you managed to maintain your singing voice? I was listening to your new album, and I listened to it multiple times throughout, and I was like blown away by how pure your voice still sounds after years and years of multiple agents inflicting themselves on you.
You mean abuse?
Yeah. Well, I don't know how I made it through my 20 years of addiction without doing serious permanent damage, because a lot of people, even people who got clean, 20 years later, they'd fetch up with hepatitis C and die anyway.
Right, or they lose their voice.
Well, that's true too. But
even worse than dying.
Well,
right, that's right.
I can handle Hep C, but
anyone in this room, that's true. Well, I think the main thing is that when I got clean, I sort of swapped addictions I became one of these workout nuts, and I had to do, in order to feel comfortable in my own skin, I had to have about 3 hours of aerobic workout a day. It really was nuts. So I got really fit in my 40s, my mid 30s to mid 50s. I was like training all the time, and then and I think that helped to be physically fit. And I think the other thing is that the music that I sing, it's not like rip it out by the roots kind of singing. It's kind to your voice.
Right. That's a good point. Yeah.
And after a while, you sort of learn to treat it like a physical training.
An instrument.
Yeah, like an instrument. You a couple of weeks before a tour, you start doing vocal exercises, get the thing back up and get your chops back, and then take care of it. Yeah, that's really the boring truth.
Let me go back a little ways. When you and Carole King decided to go out on tour together, I remember how shocked so many authorities and experts in the entertainment field were when you had to extend that tour, and you could have kept playing for another couple of years. People were so hungry for the music of you and Carole King.
Yeah,
still,
it's a good combination, that one. And Carole and I really in the early 70s, she played on Sweet Baby James and played a lot on Mudslide Slim. And I played on her first two albums too. Well, depends on what you call first. She had an album called Writer before she came out with Tapestry. But I was we sort of spoke the same musical language,
right.
And we had this great. She was in my band. We toured together for a while, and she started doing where she would do a song in the show, and then before I knew it, she was doing half the show, and then before
and you weren't going stop.
Then she was opening the show, and then I was opening the show, and it was really.
That's
it was
But
really
when you guys went on that tour, it just exploded. Did it surprise you at the time?
It did. I mean, I knew that people would love it who are fans of ours, but I didn't realize how
Huge.
Really how what a sellout it would be.
Well, that intimacy between you two is so, it's just so wonderful and engaging.
Well, that's Carol. She really is. More than anyone else, Carol King is just what you see is what you get. She's the real deal. There's nothing. There's almost no barrier between Carol and the audience. She's not assuming to be someone else. She's not painted up to be a sort of presentational version of herself. She's like, that's Carol, and people love that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your new record. It's been about 13 years since you recorded, a whole album of new material.
Yeah.
Was it writer's block, or did you just say to yourself, I'm not ready right now?
I think during that period of time, we released 5 other projects. We did a Christmas album. We did Carol and I did the Troubadour reunion.
Great album.
And I released an album called One Man Band, which was a sort of an evening that I did with my piano player Larry Goldings, and also I did 2 covers albums with my band. I had the best band on the planet, and I really wanted to let them play, so we did a couple of covers albums, and those albums, although they're not original material, they take a lot of time to do.
Correct.
It sort of takes the place of an album project. So that was one thing that kept me busy, and of course all the time I'm touring. I did 40 weeks on the road this year, and it's typical for me to do 30 weeks. So the other thing is that I find that these days, it used to be that songs would get squeezed out of me all the time. I just couldn't hold them back. But these days, there's enough other stuff going on all the time that in order to write lyrics, I have to kind of take drastic measures. It's not enough to say, okay, well, I'm going to, set up a little studio and go and work there for 5 hours in the morning and then 3 hours in the afternoon. What it really takes is an entire week at a time of empty time, not seeing anyone, not,
wow.
And after a couple of days of doing nothing, I start to hear lyrics coming through.
Wow.
So
speaking to you.
It's just that, it's true. I feel as though I have so little control over the process of writing songs that I don't so much write the songs as this. It's more like I'm the first person to hear them, and I have to be quiet for a couple of days before I can.
You get the exclusive, huh?
I get the first exclusive.
So is that when Angels of Fenway came to you, the Red Sox nation? You go after our Yankees.
That's right, I am. Well, they're everyone's
it's
Yankees.
It's a great song.
I mean, that's the world. That's the world. The Yankees are the world baseball team, and they're actually the best 2 teams in baseball. They are really
exciting.
And they're everyone's ideal.
And by the way, in August, aren't you doing a show in Fenway Park?
Yeah, Scott, we're gonna play Fenway. Angels of Fenway, this tune.
Wow.
In Fenway Park.
That's going to be a great evening.
It's going to explode. It's going to be so great.
I think it is going to be great too. And Bonnie Raitt is going to be on the bill too. So, and she's a big Boston.
I might have to go there.
Not another one.
Bonnie Raitt.
Not another one of you.
Oh man, how exciting!
We should mention he's also going to be at the Borgata in Atlantic City, August the 1st. Tickets on sale, Borgata.com. And Forest Hills Stadium in Queens, August the 4th. So that's a pretty good little lineup of gigs for you.
It will be. That'll be just before Fenway, that August the 4th. It's kind of a light summer. We're not on the road the whole time. We got sort of 2 legs of a tour that we're doing, and but it's as time goes by, I see this thing as being more like I've got this band. It's like a musical community because I've been playing with some of these guys for 4 decades. So and we've been together for a long time, and it's like a musical community. So they record with me and they tour with me. And it's great to get it out there on the road. The difficult thing is just finding the right balance between, home life, civilian existence, and the road.
Yeah. Where do you spend your downtime this summer?
Well, we have a place in Western Massachusetts. That's where the twins are in school, Rufus and Henry. So that's where we live, and that's where the studio barn is.
Yeah.
Aqueduct.
Wonderful.
Yeah, Rufus and Henry running around the house.
That's great.
Rufus and Henry,
in the mountains.
Brand new album's called Before This World. It's in stores now. You can get it on iTunes and Amazon. He's a fledgling songwriter, singer. I wish you the very best. I predict big things for you, Mr.
Big
Taylor.
things.
That's right.
Thank you so much for taking time to come by. Mr. James Taylor, ladies and
Always
gentlemen.
a pleasure. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Deb.
Thank you.